Welcome to the Millcreek Government Channel. I'm Judy Zelina, and joining us on our program is a familiar face. We have John Johnston, and he's with Social Security. He is a public affairs specialist. John, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, as always.
You always have so much information, but today what I think, John and I were talking a little bit, what we would like to do is just take some of the questions that John and I both receive, probably like frequently asked questions, and we'd like to answer some of those questions. And between he and I, we came up with quite a grouping, didn't we?
A good group of questions I think we have today for the listeners or for the viewers.
I know. Well, a lot of these are just examples. So, but I think many of our viewers are going to be able to fit right into a lot of these situations.
These are questions, honestly, that I get asked almost every day. I mean, we've kind of taken the best of the best questions. And, you know, one thing before we get started, as you know, all of these frequently asked questions can be found right on our website. If people go to socialsecurity.gov, there's an FAQ section. So, you know, for instance, if a person wants to, they're listening to us and they want to get something in writing or see something in writing, they can simply type that question into the FAQs, and they'll get an approximate answer of what we're talking about today.
And honestly, the website, if you do have access to the internet, their website is really very, very user-friendly. If I can do it, believe me, any of you guys out there can do it. John, first thing I want to ask you is, for instance, if I'm about to turn 62 years of age.
Which you're not.
No, I'm not. Close, but I'm not. And I plan to file for Social Security. My question to you is, there's two things. First off, should I wait? Now I'm 62. Should I wait? And if I decide not to, how would I get started?
Yeah, that's really the question of the day, Judy. You know, probably one of the biggest questions I get asked is when a person should take their benefits, or about the timing of benefits. And there's whole articles that have written about this every day. I mean, that people who follow Social Security, the range of age that a person can take their Social Security retirement is anywhere from 62 to age 70. Okay, most people have everyone has a full retirement age where they receive 100% of their benefit, and for people who are retiring today, their full retirement age is 66. So the benchmarks are 62, 66, and age 70. At age 62, a person would receive 75% of their benefit. Of course, at age 66, they'd receive 100% of it, and at age 70, they'd receive 132% of it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
It really becomes a decision about, do you take less money up front for a longer period of time, or do you take more money in the future for a less period of time? Social Security doesn't really, when you ask, what should you do, we don't tell people what they should do because there's so many other factors that go into that decision, with Social Security just being one of them. A person, you know, the other income a person has is going to be a big factor. If a person who's 62 and has a job that they love, that is paying them well, chances are that's a candidate who should be delaying their retirement. If we just look at it from an actuarial standpoint, most females, you know, are living about 20 years from the time they turn 65. Most males are living about 16 years after they turn 65. Now that's just the average.
Right.
So just the average alone says that most people should wait to take their full benefit. Okay, because if you calculate the break-even point and when you're going to make up that money you gained up front, it usually falls about 12 years on average for people. So that would mean they would be breaking even around age 78, but if they're living on average to be 81, 85, etc., then, you know, just from an actuarial standpoint, people should be waiting. Although we all know that a lot of people are forced into their decision. You know, maybe they lose their job or they have no other income. to live off of, so they come to Social Security at age 62. Again, it's a difficult decision for anyone to arrive at. There's a lot of planning tools on our website. If a person were to, log on to socialsecurity.gov in the retirement tab, we have a whole retirement planning section that helps address some of those questions. I also think that if a person has a financial advisor, a trusted financial advisor, financial planner, someone like that they've worked with for a number of years, those folks will also help time the benefit so that a person can hopefully max out their Social Security. And they can also even talk to people about what we call some advanced filing strategies, which involve delaying benefits and filing on a spouse's record at age 66, but delaying your own benefits to age 70. So there's some real complex or more complex strategies out there that, again, a financial advisor can help a person arrive at. I just want to be clear that Social Security doesn't tell people when they should file. So that's really a decision that we expect everyone to make on their own and then come to us, okay, with when they want to file. One of the other tools that I should mention is the retirement estimator on the website, because obviously when a person is making this decision, they need to have the numbers that they can compare. So it's up 24 hours a day. They can go onto our website, go to the retirement estimator and get an estimate of their 62, 66, and age 70 benefits at any time that will be accurate and up to date. Then
they can look at their own situation and decide from there what's going to work the best for them. Bottom line is there's really no cut and dry answer. Different situations for different people's scenarios.
Yeah, and just one other point on that is I think age 60, Medicare has become a big piece in this whole puzzle. It used to be, I think, that if you left your job at age 62, the assumption was your employer would continue to cover you under their health insurance until you turn 65. Less and less employers are offering that now. So when a person leaves their job at age 62, oftentimes they have no health insurance. As a result of that, we're seeing more and more people stay to 65, even if they have saved well and done everything else correctly to be able to go at 62, simply because they'd be paying in premiums maybe 2/3 of their Social Security benefit in premiums for a health insurance policy.
Quite a hefty amount, yes.
Yeah, a hefty amount, or 1/3 of their Social Security. So it's not worth it in that. So that's also become a factor in all this.
All right. So I've decided when I'm going to retire. How do I get started?
Yep. I mean, again, I led people to the Social Security website several times during that conversation. That's where I tell everybody to start nowadays. I mean, it's what I call today is a primary way to do business with Social Security. Really, the first place a person should start is on our website, socialsecurity.gov. The number of tools that are available to the public today are probably greater than the number of tools that were available to me as an employee to Social Security when I started. And I started in '96, so we're not talking about going that far back. Yeah, so that's definitely the best place to start.
So
the
definitely
retirement
start
planning.
there.
You can even file your claim right there.
Okay. Okay. A lot of people have a concern about the security of the website.
Yeah, which is, you should. I mean, everyone should be thinking about privacy all the time because it's the world that we live in. I heard a story just recently of a person who received a fraudulent email. I mean, Social Security just won't email you out of the blue, and he followed the link and he went to a page that he believed to be the Social Security webpage, which was not. Okay, he followed this link and ended up disclosing his personal information on this web page, and he came to us to let us know about the situation, and of course we reported it, but you have to be careful out there in the world, okay? Because there are people who will steal your private information.
So you do have, right.
Yeah, so everyone has to be very careful. Now, as far as doing business on the Social Security webpage, I mean, our webpage is www.socialsecurity.gov. That's the webpage, and that's the actual Social Security webpage. It's not socialsecurity.com. It's not socialsecuritybenefits.com. There's all sorts of other websites that use the word Social Security that have nothing nothing to do with us.
Okay.
You know, be suspicious if someone's charging you for a service. I mean, 99.9% of the services through Social Security are free. There's some esoteric types of things that individuals have to pay for, but as far as filing claims and doing estimates and, you know, getting Social Security cards, all that is free. And, you know, we've had millions of transactions on our website since it's been up, and our website actually started in around 1995, I believe, is when our first website went up. And we've never lost one piece of information. We take privacy and the privacy of our customers, you know, that's our utmost concern. We operate under the Privacy Act, first off, and I've always said we're bulldoggish about our privacy. We use something called 128-bit encryption. It's the same encryption that the military uses, and the secure parts of our site are actually taken down every evening. And when I say taken down, they're taken offline every evening, just so they can do the maintenance on them to make sure that they stay secure. So from about 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning, a person would not be able to actually file a Social Security claim, because that would actually, the secure part of the site would be down. The informational part would always be there. So again, you know, there's always, you know, everybody has to have caution when doing any business in this world, whether it's by phone, in person, on the internet, even throwing out your trash, you know, you have to be careful of now.
You do.
But, you know, as far as the person getting to our actual website and making a transaction, I'm 100% confident in its security and its safety.
So you can be assured, when John tells you that it is secure, he does mean it, and it is really the best place to start. Very, very easy to maneuver through the process. Okay, here's a question for you. I'm going to get a number once I do my calculator. And it's going to tell me how much my Social Security benefits will be. How are my benefits calculated? Right.
That's a great question. And again, another one that I get asked all the time. And again, the first thing I would tell people is there's a great publication out there called How Your Benefits Are Calculated. Okay.
There you go.
And it's actually, we publish it every year because of the nature of the formula, the indexing factor changes every year. So, you know, there are people who are inclined to want to manually calculate their benefits. So they can actually do that with this worksheet. We provide a worksheet, and all a person would need is a list of their earnings, and, you know, with a list of their earnings, they can actually manually calculate their benefit. So that's out there for the interested viewers. You know, for those who just want to understand the process, the first thing we do is we look at all of your Social Security covered earnings. So any job that you had for your entire life that you paid into Social Security, we're going to look at those earnings. First job I ever had was in El Paso, Texas. 1985, I got a job working at Baskin-Robbins ice cream store, scooping ice cream. Very hot in El Paso, you know. So I was a resourceful guy thinking, hey, let's scoop some ice cream here. And I made in 1985 $2,260. Okay, that still shows up on my statement from Social Security. Okay, that money is credited towards my Social Security benefit. So any job that you ever had during your lifetime is going to be reflected in Social Security. The second thing that we do is we index those dollars to put them in a today's dollar value. So we index them for inflation. So if I make it to retirement, I'm knocking on wood here, that $2,250 or $60 may be worth $5,000. So we multiply it by an indexing factor and put it in a today's dollar value. Okay. Once we get the today's dollar value of all the earnings, we take your top 35 years of earnings. That means if a person had 45 years of earnings, we're going to drop their lowest 10 years, and we're going to keep their top 35 years. Okay.
All right.
If a person had 33 years of earnings, we're going to give them 2 years worth of zero. Okay, so a person can max out their Social Security benefit by having 35 years of their highest earnings possible. Okay, that's how to max out the benefit. After we get the 35 highest years, we actually sum all those years together, okay, and we come up with an amount, and we divide that by 420. That's the number of months in 35 years.
All right.
Okay, and we come up with what we call the averaged indexed monthly earnings. That's the average of what a person earned during their lifetime.
All right.
Okay, after it's been indexed for inflation. So it's their average earnings in a today's dollar value. Okay. Now we all know that Social Security isn't going to just replace 100% of your earnings. I mean, it'd be a dream. It would be great.
It'd be nice
if we did, but
doesn't happen.
No. And the average person can expect about a 42% replacement on their Social Security earnings. Okay.
All right.
So that means if they're earning that average index monthly earnings figure was one number, they can expect about 42% of that on a monthly basis. There's an actual formula that we run it through. It's a little complex probably to talk about on TV, but the last part of the equation is this formula that we run it to arrive at that 42%. Okay. The low earnings worker is actually going to get about a 60% replacement rate. Their benefit will be lower, their net benefit amount, but the percentage of their earnings replaced are higher, and subsequently the highest earners, okay, are only going to get about a 25% replacement rate. They'll have the highest benefit, okay, but their actual replacement rate will be lower, and that's what the formula, by running it through the formula, it kind of gets gets people to the replacement rates. And again, that's available on that worksheet that I talked about, how your retirement benefit is calculated.
All right, now, John, can I collect Social Security and unemployment compensation at the same time?
That's a tough one, and the reason I say it's a tough one is because it involves another agency. Okay, from Social Security's perspective, we don't care at all. Okay, you can be collecting unemployment the entire time you're receiving your Social Security retirement claim, and we're not going to do anything to your Social Security benefits. I always advise everybody to check with the other agency. All right. Okay, so if a person is in a situation where they're receiving unemployment and Social Security, we're fine with it, but to check with unemployment, because unemployment may have some rules on specific cases that reduce the unemployment benefit when a person is getting Social Security.
All right. Okay. And so that would be probably on a state-to-state basis.
Yeah, because unemployment benefits are administered by the state. I believe that is correct.
So they may have some rules and regulations.
And honestly, we try intentionally to stay out of other agencies' business. I mean, we feel like we have enough to talk about just with Social Security itself, So, but that is a pretty common question, and what we usually do is refer people over to unemployment.
Okay. How about if I work, will my benefits be cut?
Well, we're talking about retirement benefits, I'm assuming, right?
Right, Social Security.
And just for clarification of our viewers, the focus of this particular show is going to be on the retirement types of benefits.
Yes.
Okay, just so there's no confusion. Well, it depends on your age, to answer your question about how earnings will affect your benefits. And again, I'll just comment, we have a publication on our website called How Earnings Affects Your Benefits, okay? And
I have an answer for everything.
Yeah, and it honestly outlines it in there, pretty clearly. Really, there's 3 tiers of earnings tests, as we call them. If you think about it, a retirement benefit, its nature denotes a decrease in work activity. A person is retired, they've decreased their work activity, right? I mean, that's pretty much what the term means. Therefore, when a person files for a retirement benefit, we look to see how much they're earning to determine what we can pay them in Social Security. Okay, and there's 3 tiers to that earnings test, and the first tier is when a person is 62 up until the year that they reach their full retirement age. Okay, now the amount that a person is allowed to earn in between that age is around $14,700. Again, the exact figure, I could be off on the exact figure, but again, check the website for the exact figure. The point is, it's right around that $14,700 amount. For every $2 a person earns over that, they'll withhold $1 from their benefit.
All right.
Okay. So in other words, if a person is going to earn $16,700, they'd be $2,000 over that figure because it's a 2-for-1 reduction.
Okay.
We would have to withhold $1,000 from their Social Security.
All right.
Okay. If they were getting $1,000 a month, that's 12 checks of $1,000. We would withhold the first check and pay the next 11 checks.
I see.
One of the things that we ask on every claim that a person files is we ask, are you still working, and what do you expect to earn? We then pay the person based on the estimate that they told us. It's pretty common for people to change their estimate during their year, particularly people who are in commission-based work or work that doesn't have a regular salary, maybe seasonal work. Or maybe somebody just gets called in to do some consulting after they said they were going to retire.
That would have various hours.
That would have various hours. So, you know, and a lot of people panic about that because they think, oh, I'm collecting Social Security, I already said that. No, simply a phone call to us, you know, to our 800 number or a visit to the local office and letting us know what the new estimate is, we can then change the estimate on the record. Okay? Also, at the end of the year, the IRS tells us what the person earns. So if the person estimated on the low end, it's possible that they could owe us money at the end of the year, and we'll just settle up the following year.
All right.
If a person estimates on the high end, and we withhold too much money, we'll owe them money, and then we'll pay that when the actual earnings come in. Okay. The term that we use for people is to bargain with us in good faith. In other words, tell us what you think you're going to earn on an accurate basis, and we understand that, you know, that's hard to predict sometimes. The second tier involves the year that a person reaches their full retirement age, and the earnings limit jumps up to about $38,000 a year a person reaches their full retirement age, and then it's a 3-for-1 reduction. Okay, so for instance, for me, I'll turn 67, which is my full retirement age, in September. So the year that I turn 67, from January through September, which my birthday is in September, I'll be able to earn up to that second tier of earnings.
All right.
If your birthday's in February, your second tier will only be 2 months.
Okay.
Okay. After you're past your full retirement age, you can earn as much money as you want and collect your full Social Security.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. All right, here's one for you. Example, I began drawing my Social Security at 62, but I'm still working. Since I'm still paying Social Security taxes, will my benefits increase?
Possibly. You know, we always, getting back to the question we answered about how we compute benefits, we look at all earnings that a person has, and that includes once they start collecting benefits. Okay, so the computation is a living computation. It's not a, you know, concrete computation that happens one time and that is the benefits that a person will get for the rest of their lives. If a person keeps working, they could keep adding money that we could use to compute the benefit. And, you know, just understanding the formula, we use it the top 35 years of earnings after they've been indexed for inflation. So anytime a person replaces their lowest of their 35 years, they're automatically going to see an increase in their Social Security.
All right.
Okay. If a person is working and they're not seeing an increase, that's probably because their earnings are lower than their lowest 35th year. So those earnings would just be discarded, right? We went back to that computation. We said we use your top 35 years. So if you're working and collecting Social Security, if your earnings are lower than that lowest 35th year, it's not going to increase the benefit at all. And this happens automatically, by the way. A person doesn't need to report it to us. When the IRS reports the earnings to us, and that will happen sometime between January and October of the following year. So 2011 earnings are being reported to us right now.
Yes.
And the companies have until October to report those earnings to us. So sometime between January and October, if a person is going to get an increase in their Social Security, they'll get a letter from us saying that, you know, because of your earnings, your Social Security is going to increase this much. And then we actually retroactively pay them, you know, from January. So if the letter came in June, there'd already be 6 months paid out. And let's say it was a $10 increase in the check, we'd immediately send out a $60 check for the 6 checks we sent out and then increase their benefit by $10.
Okay, so now again then, say I have a pension. Will that affect my Social Security?
No.
No.
Okay, you know, again, I'm fond of saying that Bill Gates could file for Social Security when he becomes 62, if he chose to. And I'm sure he has multiple pensions and investments. And again, it doesn't, again, we're an insurance program. We're not a means-tested program or anything like that. So the only pensions that, you know, and I want to differentiate right here because I could see a viewer yelling at the TV going, I have a pension and you reduced my Social Security. The only exception to that is if a person paid into a Social Security system or paid into another Social Security system, like for instance, firemen in Erie didn't pay into Social Security. They paid into their own Social Security system. So there is a reduction if they also have a Social Security pension from another job.
Okay.
So if a person has a government pension or a pension from a municipality from a job that they did not contribute to Social Security, there's an offset between those.
Okay.
Okay?
All
But your
right.
typical pension, no.
Okay. All right. Say, for instance, say my husband died recently.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can I choose between my own benefits and that as a widow, or can I collect both? How does that work?
Yeah, how it works is for survivors' benefits, you know, widows and widowers are a unique class of beneficiary, and they're the only ones who can actually switch one time in their lifetime between widow's benefits and retirement benefits.
All right.
Okay? A person becomes eligible for widow's or widower's benefits when they turn age 60. Okay, a person is eligible for Social Security benefits, of course, or retirement benefits at age 62. Okay. I can use my mother as a personal example. She filed on my dad's record as a widow at age 60 and took 71.5% of my dad's benefit. Her benefit is still growing because she hasn't tapped into that yet.
Right.
And at age 70 is when her benefit will max out.
Okay.
At age 70, one of the things that my mom will do is look at her benefit to see if it's now higher than the 71.5% of my father's.
All right.
Okay. If it is, what she'll do is she'll file a claim on her own record and start getting benefits on her own record.
Okay.
Okay. The other side of that is if a widow, my mother could have filed a widow's claim at age 62, or excuse me, a retirement claim at age 62 on her own record, and then filed a widow's claim on my dad's record at age 66, switched over to that. And the advantage to doing that is they don't carry their reduction factor with them. Okay, so my mother, who is getting 71.5% of my dad's benefit because she took it at age 60, when if she files for her benefit at age 70, she'll actually receive 132% of her benefit because of the delayed retirement credits that are paid up to age 70.
Okay. Again, you have to look at
You have to do a comparison,
exactly,
really. Yep.
Exactly.
And honestly, just to comment a little bit on that, just by filing a Social Security claim, Social Security will screen for that information for you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, here's another scenario. If I should die while I'm still working full-time at the age of 66, what happens to my money that I've contributed? In other words, I haven't, I'm not collecting anything. What happens to that money? Can my children claim my benefits?
Well, children are eligible if they're under 18, or if they're in high school up till 19 and 2 months, or what we call our permanently disabled population. We actually refer to them as disabled adult children, and these are children who became disabled before the age of 22 and remain unmarried. So in that case, a child would be eligible for it, but an adult child without a disability would not be eligible for the money. I think it's important to remember, or to remind the viewers, that Social Security is really a unique type of investment vehicle. We're not like a bank account or a savings account where a person is contributing, an amount of money, and then there's a finite amount of money in this bank account for that individual that they'll draw out. Okay, some people get a lot more out of Social Security than they ever contributed to it, and some people will actually receive less if they pass and they don't have any survivors. That money can't be drawn by anyone. I've always said, and the way we've always talked about, or internally always talked about Social Security, is we're an insurance program. Okay, so while a person is working, essentially they are insuring themselves against retirement, or in retirement, against disability, and in the case of death. Okay, so essentially they're purchasing an insurance policy where if they meet the qualifications, they can then receive a monthly payment until they don't meet those qualifications anymore.
That's a good way of looking at it. Okay, what if I did not work long enough to qualify for Social Security? And if my husband passes, will I be able to collect benefits?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in fact, you could collect before your husband passes.
Okay.
And, you know, we're saying husband, but I think most of our viewers understand it's a gender-neutral benefit.
Right.
It could also be,
Right.
you know, the situation of a man not being insured under Social Security and collecting on his wife's record, okay?
Okay.
Just for that clarification, I think traditionally, you know, it was, especially when Social Security first started, it was the man working and the woman maybe staying home. Again, even if the spouse is not deceased, the uninsured individual can collect what we call spouse's benefits.
Okay.
That's the living version of widow's benefits.
All right.
Okay. Now their value is different. A widow's benefit is actually higher than a spouse's benefit, but the entitlement is still there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now, John, is it true that some people are collecting Social Security retirement benefits that never paid into the system?
Well, I guess a spouse, you know,
in that scenario.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, again, we're an insurance program, so a person has to contribute to Social Security to become insured for benefits.
Okay.
So, you know, there's all sorts of what I call misinformation out there, you know, people collecting Social Security who never paid into it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't happen. There has to be a worker who pays into it. Now, again, we could have a case of a disabled adult child, like a person could have a Down syndrome child who is now into their 40s who's collecting a disabled adult child's benefit on their parents' record, and that disabled adult child never worked, but they're insured as a result of their parents working, okay? So there's always a work piece involved. I mean, 100%, I can't stress enough, 100% of the time, there's a work piece involved where a number holder, the person who holds the Social Security number, or a worker, as we refer to them, has worked enough to become insured for Social Security.
Okay. All right. Now, here's one. If I remarry, can I still collect Social Security benefits based on my deceased first husband's record?
Are you thinking about something?
I knew it. I just knew it. I couldn't even keep a straight face saying that one, John. But people are in a situation like this.
Well, it's a situation my mother was in. Before she filed for widow's benefits, my dad passed when she was in her early 50s, and she had started dating a man later on, and they thought about getting married. And, you know, the one thing that she learned is if she would have married him before age 60, it would have precluded her from any widow's benefits on my dad's record. Okay, so it has to do about the age that a person remarries. Okay, if a person remarries past age 60, they can still be eligible for the widow's benefits. Okay. Now, as far as in a life case, you know, if the husband isn't dead yet and an individual remarries, well, you know, they're now a spouse on another record, so there's entitlement on the new record as a spouse on the new record. Okay. They will lose the entitlement on their old record because they're not a divorced spouse anymore.
All right.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Now, now this one, I think you talked a little bit about, but do my Social Security contributions go into a personal retirement account for me and earn interest?
Yeah, and that's...
You want to go over that one again?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on that, but I think that's an important one because there's a lot of misunderstanding even about how the program works and how we works. And the answer to that question is a resounding no.
Okay, it is no.
It's not a personal account that an individual can track when a person is paying their premium, or excuse me, paying their taxes.
It doesn't go to me personally.
It's the 6.2%, okay, that a person pays, and then the employer matches it, okay? So, for instance, Social Security, I pay 6.2% of my salary into Social Security, and then the Social Security Administration matches that 6.2% for me. Millcreek,
that's for me.
Township would match it for you. So that's a total of 12.4% go into the Social Security funds. The people who are working today are paying the benefits of the people who are receiving Social Security.
Exactly.
And we have about 60,000 residents in Erie County who are receiving Social Security. So, you know, our paycheck when we're paying our FICA taxes go to those residents of Erie County to pay their Social Security benefit. What it is more like is an annuity or an insurance program, as I talked about. While we're paying those, you know, those taxes, we're paying a premium on a policy, and then we're promised a monthly amount for as long as we meet those qualifications.
When the time comes, we meet the qualifications and all the criteria. is in place, then that's when you will benefit.
Yeah, and that's when a person will get a monthly amount. The majority of the people end up with actually taking more out of Social Security than they put into it. Okay, I mean, the perfect example of that, and I love to tell her story, is the Ida Mae Fuller story, and she was our very first beneficiary. Little Ida Mae Fuller got a $22.54 check in January of 1940. Okay, we took a picture of Ida. We paraded it around in every newspaper. You can still see it in the history part of our websites for those of the viewers who are interested. And my wife thinks I have an unhealthy fascination with Ida. And the first time I saw Ida, she doesn't look like the 65-year-olds that I talk today. I mean, my mother is 65, and I always say she's nothing like, Ida Mae Fuller looks like a very old woman getting this check. And then honestly, it looks like she's going to get 2 or 3 checks, and it's going to be the end of Ida. And she bucked all odds and lived 35 years after getting that check.
Good old Ida.
Yeah, she'd actually died right when she got her 420th check, which was in 1975 at 100 years old. Now, Ida Mae Fuller ended up receiving about $23,000 from Social Security during her lifetime, and she paid a grand total of about $50 into it. Okay? Because she had gained insured status, she was eligible to keep receiving a check every month. And that's the case for everybody. As long as they continue to meet those entitlement factors, they're going to get a check every month.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, I do get this question. If I'm presently receiving Social Security disability.
Disability, okay.
At what point will I switch to regular Social Security, and does that monthly amount change?
The first part of that question is the age. You know, a person doesn't stay on disability for their whole life, okay? In fact, we don't pay disability benefits to people who are past their full retirement age.
All right.
So for people retiring today, that's age 66. So once they turn 66, they would convert to disability benefits.
No, or Social Security.
Convert to retirement benefits.
Retirement benefits.
They would convert from disability benefits to retirement benefits, okay? And no, the amount doesn't change. The disability amount is equivalent to the full retirement Social Security amount.
Okay.
So it's a seamless, it's funny, it's a seamless change for the user or the person receiving the benefits. We do send a letter out to them about 3 months before it's going to happen, just letting them know. And really what they change over to is the retirement rules as opposed to the disability rules. There's different work rules, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now, here's a question that I received, and actually I really don't get it that often, but it gave me some food for thought.
Sure.
What if I started collecting Social Security retirement at 62? Okay, and I changed my mind. Okay, can I pay back the amount I collected and then get a higher payment later on down the road?
Yes.
I do like to throw some things out at you.
I mean, and that's one of those things where we talked about, like the advanced filing strategy. I mean, it used to be yes with no restrictions. Okay. And it used to be an actual strategy that the Wall Street Journal wrote about, that a person could go into retirement, file their Social Security claim at 62, collect benefits up until age 70, write a check to Social Security for the amount that they received from 62 to age 70, and then immediately turn around and file a claim at age 70 at the unreduced rate at 132%. So they'd withdraw their claim at age 70 and then get their benefits. And you know, that was a obvious loophole that was benefiting only the most wealthy of us. You know, a person who could afford to write, you know, a $100,000 check
to go back to them.
And essentially what they were doing is making money off of Social Security benefits. So they were actually just collecting that, and it's like an interest-free loan from Social Security that was benefiting probably the people who needed it the least. So it's interesting, that had been in place for a while, and it started to become a popular strategy about 5 years ago. Social Security closed that loophole. Okay, an individual can still have a do-over or can change their mind about filing their benefit, but they only get one during their lifetime. Okay, so you get one chance to withdraw your claim during your lifetime, and it's restricted to within a year of the filing date.
Okay.
Okay, so if you filed your claim at age 62 and then tried to withdraw it at age 64, you would not be able to do that. You would have to do it. So it's going back to the true intent of it being a way to change an action that they took with Social Security as opposed to receive an interest-free loan from us.
Okay. Okay, John, I kind of want to save this question for last because I know it's a question you get all the time, and I know I do. For some of our viewers out there that are right around the 50 age group, they're asking, will Social Security be there when I retire?
Absolutely. I mean, I have 100% faith that we're going to be there. I've often said that if Social Security is not there, the country has got a whole lot of problems.
Right,
because
so you got more to look at then than just that.
Yeah, I mean, just the whole nature of how our program works is we're tied into payroll. So as long as people are working and contributing to Social Security, there'll always be a Social Security program. Now, what people have heard about is, can Social Security sustain the current benefit rate with, one, the demographics of our population. We have the baby boomers who are aging into our program right now. So we have more people collecting benefits, and those people are living longer. So when we started in 1935, the average person lived about 7 years from after they turned 65. We already talked about what the life expectancy is today. So we have two factors contributing. We have the baby boomers starting to collect Social Security, and we have people who are living longer. Okay. So if nothing is done at all to change Social Security, okay, and none of these changes that people are hearing about every day in the newspaper, and it seems like every election cycle we go from being a very quiet little agency to being the agency that everybody talks about every day about
That's true.
making changes. And I just want to tell the viewers, like, when you hear about these things being proposed, that's all they are. They're proposals. A lot of people think just because someone has talked about it that that's what the change is going to be. Okay, we really haven't been altered significantly since the 80s. All right, that's the last time that the program was kind of overhauled. So our worst case scenario, if nothing is done at all, come 2037, we'll be able to pay approximately 78% of the promised benefits. So there'd be a 22% benefit cut across the board come 2037 if nothing is done at all. Now, Social Security has changed a lot since 1935 when we started, and in fact, Social Security is a very different program today than it was even, for instance, in 1980 before the amendments in the 80s. Okay, totally different benefits. The way we calculate the benefits is different. The tax rate is different. Right. So I do expect eventually to, address some of these issues that are being talked about in the news, but those are going to be done by politicians. So I encourage everyone to make sure that they're listening to what the ideas are that are out there, and whatever way a person wants to go with it, that's the way that they, that they become an informed voter about the things that are being done. The other thing that I would assure our viewers, because oftentimes it seems like the seniors are the ones who are most afraid of this. And if you look back historically at our program, we've never done anything to affect current beneficiaries. It's always to affect future beneficiaries. So it's almost like the decisions that are being made now are decisions that are being made about my Social Security. Okay, at my age, the people who are in their 30s and 40s, those are the folks that were making the decisions about their Social Security now. The current beneficiaries are going to continue, if we just look from the historical perspective, to receive the benefits that they were promised.
Yeah. John, thank you so much. I'll tell you one thing. You always have so much information. I learn so much when you come on the program. Is there anything you wanted to briefly add? We are at the end of our time. Is there anything you wanted to add to our viewers?
Just, again, check out our website, www.socialsecurity.gov. Just on that last question I answered, there's all sorts of information. Our actuary has a page where he actually publishes that information. I want to be very clear to the viewers that these are non-political numbers. These are done by our actuary, so anyone can check that out, and along with all the other resources on our webpage. And thanks for having me.
Okay, and do you have the 800 number offhand?
800-772-1213.
Okay, always a pleasure, John.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you so
Judy.
much. Viewers, if you need any more information, please go to their website. Thank you for watching the Millcreek Government Channel. Until next time, have a wonderful day.